Hello everyone. Hope you all are keeping warm in this cold weather. It's week 5 and it's my policies at work presentation for me, and I will be presenting access control policy of my previous company. I hope you will like my presentation. About me, I joined MITS AI program in fall 2018 and this is my second semester. I have a bachelor's in electronics and communication engineering, but I worked as a software developer doing mostly Android and wearable application development. Being in the software development team, to be frank, I was not aware of most of the security policies I had, but after a thorough analysis of my previous experience, I chose to present access control policies that I had when working in Samsung Research America as an Android developer. As part of work, I had to work from home sometimes. For that, I need to connect over VPN to get remote access. And to test my application, I had to run the application on different mobile device models. And these devices has to be connected to lab Wi-Fi. Since remote access, Wi-Fi access, etc. comes under access control policies, I am presenting access control for my policies at work presentation, and I hope you will all enjoy my presentation. As we know, access control is a security technique that regulates who or what can view or use information. This is to prevent unauthorized user access or compromise or theft of information. Access control is the key against security breaches and unauthorized access. Establishing a comprehensive policy will help you build a strong access control. Here is the overview of access control policies I will be discussing in this presentation. There are 9 sections to it. Employee network access, contractor network access, user account management of employees who have been exited or terminated from the company, remote access over VPN, password access and requirements, Wi-Fi network access, dedicated external network connectivity, special lab network access, exceptions to access control policy. Let me go over each one of them in detail. First one is employee network access. All full-time employees will be given network access depending on their Active Directory accounts access profile. That means admin accounts will have elevated privileges compared to standard user accounts. Next is contractor or third-party network access. The access will be restricted and is limited to the scope of work. Access for contractor or third party require a SharePoint request, and this has to be approved by the lab head first and then by the security head. The third one is user account management. This talks about employee accounts upon exit or termination. Upon exit or termination, the IT and security team has to delete or disable the employee, contractor, consultant, intern or vendor accounts within 72 hours from all SRA systems. But the question here is allowing up to 72 hours of access for a person who is no longer an employee appropriate? This is a $1 million question to debate. Next section is remote access. An employee has to be given a remote access connection with same consideration as the account's on-site connection, and the access to the internet by anyone other than the employee through the VPN is not permitted. So let's see the remote access requirements. These are some remote access requirements. Secure remote access will be enforced via strong password and four-factor authentication. Do not share your login or password with anyone, including your family members. Safeguard password and do not have it automatically issued by a login script. because if login script is compromised, third party can find out your password. Work computer which is remotely connected is not connected to other network. Exception is personal network because they assume that the personal networks are safe compared to the public networks. Ensure contractor or intern access VPN on company issued laptop only. This is again a restriction for the contractors or interns. IT loaner laptops will not be allowed to have VPN due to security issues. This is because loaner laptops are not issued to a specific person or a specific role. It can be used by any employee or contractors on a need basis. That is why there is no access profile or security for that laptop and is hence not allowed to use VPN. All devices should have latest antivirus and OS patches installed. Personal devices are not allowed to connect to VPN. There is a timeout system. If there is no activity for a specified period of time, or if there is 12 hours of continuous connection, then the devices will be disconnected from the network. Then the user has to authenticate and get connected to the network. Employees should log off when not using the network. Information transmitted should be encrypted. These are the remote access requirements. But the question is, how do organizations ensure that all employees are following aforementioned network access conditions? Passwords are most common and popular way of user authentication. All employees or third-party accounts are monitored, logged, and viewed regularly for any discrepancies. Users are held accountable for any activity on their accounts. Now I'll go over the password requirement. First is password rule. Company issued devices are required to have a 8-character digit password or passcode. Password requires the use of 8+4 rule, 8 characters minimum length, and 4 is for one lowercase, uppercase, one number, and one special character. So the total password length suggestion is 12 minimum. There is a security awareness guide for creating strong password, but how many employees are actually aware of it? I don't think a single employee went there and checked how to create a strong password. There should be history of passwords to prevent the reuse of password. Passwords must be encrypted. Password must not be shared with anyone. And if password is compromised, it must be changed immediately. Administrators must not circumvent the password policy for the sake of ease of use. Users cannot circumvent password entry with auto login, application remembering embedded script, or hard-coded passwords in the client software. Do not write passwords down and store anywhere in your office. This is because employees create strong password which they might forget, so they note it down somewhere. All system level passwords must be changed quarterly and Knox passwords must be changed monthly. All production level system level passwords must be in global password management database administered by IT operations. If someone has to change password, they have to call the IT help desk. IT help desk will authenticate the user and the employee has to change the password upon their first login to a strong password. Next one is Wi-Fi access general requirements. I want to give you a brief overview of different Wi-Fi network we had. There is a lab Wi-Fi which is basically used for testing and development. And there is guest Wi-Fi which is for visitors. And there is corporate Wi-Fi where you can access corporate network. So let's see what is the general requirements of these Wi-Fi wireless infrastructure devices. So these devices must follow security type WPA2 enterprise and encryption type AES and have a machine certificate installed to identify as a company device. All non-IT Wi-Fi access points need to be approved prior to activation. Approved lab wireless infrastructure devices are isolated from corporate network and the lab SSID must be different from production or guest Wi-Fi. Lab Wi-Fi. To get access to lab Wi-Fi, the lab devices has to be registered. Guest Wi-Fi is for visitors only and not for employees. The visitors has to register with lobby receptionist daily for getting user ID and password. The passwords expire after 12 hours and they change every 24 hours. For non-Samsung visitors needing Wi-Fi access, they have two choices. They can either go for guest Wi-Fi, which is only for browsing internet, but if they need access to corporate network, they have to request a visitor machine certificate, which will give them access to the corporate network. But on which Wi-Fi network employees will connect their personal device? Can employees get access to lab Wi-Fi on their personal device? Yes, if they register their personal device. It will be like a lab device. Then they can access lab Wi-Fi on personal device. Can employee get access to guest Wi-Fi? Yes, if they know the password for that day, because they share the same password with all user ID and password with all the visitors. Next is dedicated external network connectivity. It states that any direct network connections to and from external customers, contractors, third-party vendors, interns, partners, etc. must be reviewed and approved by lab department head and the security. Next is special lab network access. I already mentioned about this in Wi-Fi access control. This is only for test or development system. This network is not allowed to access corporate network nor utilize any corporate services. Corporate devices are not allowed to access lab specific network or use the SSID and PSK. Each lab will be issued their own wireless SSID and personal shared key. This personal shared key must not be shared outside the lab it was issued to. Also, visitors and guest systems are not allowed to connect to lab network. And one of the main reason we have this network is it's the speed of the network is good, so it's efficient in testing and development environment. Next is exceptions to access control policy. If there is a business need that requires an exception to the access policy, then an exception must be filed. Who approves the exception? Lab department head and head of security. Must be filed via SharePoint. Is valid. Exceptions are usually valid for a year and will automatically be revoked, and access will be disabled after 1 year unless a new exception is filed. So it's end user's responsibility to know when the exception expires and to initialize refiling of the exception. I found this last point tricky because you as an employee or contractor has to keep watching if that exception is expiring or not. This is an example of exception to access control policy, HIPAA environment exceptions. HIPAA is United States legislation where it safeguard and protect users' medical information. So here the exception is that no external parties may access HIPAA environment unless with an approved exception. External parties here are referring to any cloud services employee, any hospital employee, customers, non-Samsung employee employed to work on projects such as consultant and contractors, people outside of healthcare project team. So these people are not allowed to view the data, but if there is an exception, these external parties can view the data. So that's an example of exception. Yes, that was the last slide of my access control policies. I went over 9 different access control policies that I had in the previous company. Let me know your thoughts on the policies that I have discussed. What access control policy do you have? Is it something similar to what I have discussed, or is it something different? I would like to hear more about it. Please post your comments after watching this. And thank you for your time and have a nice day.